Hello, friends. I'm Anita Kulkarni. Very happy to welcome you to Forum Renu Foundation, where we interpret the uplifting Indian arts to wider global audiences. This is episode 4 of our web series, The Architecture of Arts. The very famous French fashion designer Christian Dior once said that one has a chance to create great revolution just by being sincere and natural, without ever seeking the revolution. How potent! Indeed, the rural folks, if you have seen them create art by painting or wood carving, they are 100% into the moment. They are fully engrossed and fully focused, completely sincere. They are not concerned about who will buy that art. They are not concerned about the appreciation that will come their way. Perhaps that's why this art lives centuries, if not millenniums. And urban people like us want to dive deep into them, want to learn about them. How beautiful. In today's episode, we will be exploring three exquisite Indian tribal arts: Madhubani from Bihar, Warli from the coastal Maharashtra and Gujarat, and Mud and Mirror from the deserts of Kutch and Gujarat. Let's get started.
Primitive man spoke in grunts and body gestures. But beyond the basics, one of his instinctive needs has always been to express. And celebrations, synonymous with man, inspired music, dance, and color, be it costumes, color showering and smearing at festivals, or painting house walls. Music and dance have always expressed the happiest of human emotions, especially in folk life. How beautifully they showcase local life, the lyrics, the rhythms, the steps, the ornaments, and the spirit, all weaving in the pieces and hints from the surroundings. No formal training, no written scores. Quaint, unself-conscious people, drenched in lyrical beats, immersed in the rasa. Imagine a collective expression unique to a small community, surviving for decades, even centuries, without any connection or regard to the outside world. Customs and traditions, worships and despices, lovable dialects of proverbs and tales, the enchanting street theater of nomads, music, dance, architecture, hand painting on mud walls, artifacts and handicrafts. All of it makes the folk culture. In history, the origins of folk culture are considered the hearth of community life. And beyond music and dance exists the most fascinating universe of visual imagery. Just a cursory look at any civilization and we see creations of man across the millenniums. Evidence of art from the ancient past exists in the form of petroglyphs, rock carvings, and cave paintings, dating back to hundreds of thousand years. In the centuries that followed, these expressions grew and expanded, encompassing many areas of creativity like drawing, painting, sculpture, literature, architecture, printmaking, textiles, and so many more. Somewhere along the line, they came under the great big umbrella of art history, a highly organized field of research. Enlisting the origins, the genesis, history, geography, and inspirations, art history studies the aesthetics to understand the beauty, enigma, and essence of the sublime that man painted or carved or built. Starting at Stone Age, 40,000 years before Christ, and arriving at contemporary art that brings us to the present day, the string of time periods has various names relating to the respective isms, like Classicism, Impressionism, Cubism, and so on. We are rich with the enormous research and documentation by art scholars and historians. What we are exploring in this episode is folk art. Away from the academic high art the art history covers, folk art makes an equally fascinating subject. When was the term folk art born? Here is a brief reference to the timeline. Although as old as man himself, on the world scene, the term folk art got coined only in the 19th century, when the cultural climate had become all about romanticism and its exaggerated norms and proportions, folks in smaller rural communities living a simple life simply could not merge in the stream. Free from the rules of neoclassicism or romanticism, the big movements in art evolution, they painted the motifs as simple, innocent, free-spirit depictions of a community, free from personal idiosyncrasies, ego, or agenda. This art was like fresh air and greatly appealed to the post-industrial revolution urban mainstream. This led to the birth of folk art as a genre, a non-elitist, primitive, or homemade art that spoke volumes of indigenous cultures. India has over 2,500 forms of tribal folk arts in its cultural kaleidoscope, each with a tradition, each with the sets of motifs and beliefs, each from a specific place. We see flora, fauna, daily life, courtly life, gods, festivals, and customs in folk paintings all the time. Like folk songs tell a story of local life, folk art too paints stories via unique arrangements and symbolism of motifs. This art can be on utilitarian or decorative materials like cloth, wood, paper, clay, metal, beads, or mirrors, or as beautiful wall paintings, colorful hand-woven textiles, fabrics in needlework, or printed in tie and dye style, handmade metal figurines, wooden toys, hand-painted pottery, fine paintings on organic paper, or articles in papier-mâché, lacquerware, or leather. Printmaking, carpet weaving and tapestry, basket weaving are some more examples. Here are a few interesting differences that set folk art apart from fine art. Folk art is beautifully handmade in a traditional way, without much innovation. Fine art may employ machine-made visuals as the artist sees it. In folk art, there is no artistic education, only learning by watching, imitating, and doing as an apprentice in informal community settings. No engineered paints or expensive brushes in folk art. Instead, earthy materials, basic, new, and multi-purpose tools, and rudimentary techniques. Fine art is exhibited in well-curated shows, untouched, protected, even insured. Folk art may be perfectly utilitarian, like a tortilla container, a flower vase, a stern metal door knocker turned shiny and flat from years of use. A fine art sculpture may be gracing the immaculate landscape of an important building, holding the weight of elegance and scale. Folk art stands holding the responsibilities of everyday life. Imagine a scarecrow in the crops, made of old things, or imagine gods appearing in masks. Fine art is beautifully framed, describing the artist, mounted on the polished white walls of an art gallery or a museum. It is a visual representation of things we should know and must appreciate to be in the white-collar loop. Folk art may be simply making a toy set for children in a modest family. Fine art is stylish and expensive. It qualifies for a collector's item, often won by the collector in an investment-driven bidding war. This art is precise, proper, dust-free, and cold. Folk art is imperfect, warm, colorful, and comfortable. A fine artist belongs to a well-recognized art fraternity of the world. A folk artist may always remain an unassuming vernacular talent. Finally, fine art and folk art both make the tipping points. Fine art makes a building a museum. Folk art turns a house into a home.
Friends, let's welcome Prachi Khade-Gurjar in the studio. Prachi is a very talented architect and artist. She has a bachelor's in architecture from Pune University, India. And she's also an artist. She loves to paint in these different tribal forms and perhaps in more styles also. Prachi, great to have you here with us today.
Hello, Anita. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction and a great opportunity. I thank you and the Renu Foundation for giving me this opportunity today.
You are an architect with a master's in landscape architecture from CEPT,
Yes, that's
a
right.
very renowned university in Ahmedabad, India. How come you turned to these arts?
So it has a very interesting background to it. So as you said, I'm an architect. So since childhood, probably because of the way I was brought up, or I got many opportunities to travel to different cities, different countries. I grew up in the Gulf, and every year we used to visit India as a part of our summer vacations. So these travels used to really provide me with a lot of intrigue in knowing new people, visiting new cities, getting to know about their culture, food, everything. So it was probably then when it all began. Like I really was attracted towards visual arts and like the aesthetics that go into it. So that was something that led me to pursue architecture. After completing bachelor's in architecture, I went on to pursue masters at CEPT University in Ahmedabad. CEPT stands for Center for Environmental Planning and Technology. It is a very well-renowned school in India for architecture. Apart from the extensive core coursework it has to offer, they also offer set of beautiful hands-on workshops to the
Hmm.
students. It also proves like a really great recreation apart from the usual coursework which we have to do as students. You must be knowing it, Anita, since you are an architect yourself.
I think you touched upon a very good reading there because the hands-on training is so important for us architects because it's not rare that we get our hands dirty on sites, right? To show the workmen
Absolutely.
how a particular texture in plaster is obtained or uh, to do so many things. So we have to work with our hands and these electives in different workshops, different courses. I remember from my architecture college days, we used to love our time in the workshops doing the plaster of Paris work or wood carving, wood cutting with a saw, and so many other things, actual plaster and mortar. So I exactly relate to what you are saying.
So this is when I got this amazing opportunity to dive deeper into the Indian tribal art forms. I remember one of the semesters had offered a set of three art forms for the hands-on workshop, and I was really excited, and I had to take it up. So luckily, I got that elective, and everything started from there. I can say we had a wonderful instructor, Miss Soha Trivedi, who was really talented and very knowledgeable.
Bihar, a state in northeast India, is known as the land of a number of world famous personalities. They were on a different level of evolution and include Aryabhatta, the astronomer and Indian mathematician, Chandragupta Maurya, the disciple of Chanakya and the founder of the Maurya Empire, Samrat Ashok, the Indian emperor of the Maurya dynasty, and Gautam Buddha. The state also housed Nalanda University, the ancient center of learning that was among the first large universities in the recorded history. Bihar is also known for its music and arts. The art of Madhubani is long standing in Mithila, the northern region abutting the border of Nepal in the state of Bihar. Tale has it that 5,000 years ago, the king of Mithila, Raja Janak, ordered his artists to paint all houses in Madhubani Bhittachitra, the wall paintings, to celebrate the wedding of his daughter Maithili, also known as Sita. The art is signified by the highly detailed spirited line work that fills the entire surface as it tells a story. The art was undiscovered until the 1930s. A natural catastrophe became a reason for its appearance to the world. A bad earthquake struck Bihar in 1934 when a British officer found the art on the shattered walls during one of his visits to the grief stricken areas. Mesmerized by the beauty of it, even in the situation that dire, he salvaged the samples from the debris to share with folks. It of course took a few more decades for the art to be noted by the world. But now it is here to stay. Like many other folk arts, Madhubani too is so engrossing it turns spiritual, first for the artist, then for a viewer. Enclosed in exquisite borders, the art portrays beautiful motifs of fish, tree, lotus flowers, water, birds, peacocks, sun and moon, gods and goddesses. Traditionally, it was women in the community who painted Madhubani, illustrating their thoughts, hopes, and dreams. Women of higher castes like Brahmin and Kayastha painted Madhubani in a precise, formal manner, depicting deities like Durga, Kali, Ganesha, and telling stories of Ram Sita and Shiva Parvati. Dalit, the lower caste women, on the other hand, painted more earthly pictures with workday themes like women cooking or images of animals. They painted their own gods like Rahu and Ketu. Whether they did not paint the main gods because of their untouchable status in the society or not remains to be known. The Madhubani art types include Tantrik, Kobar, Bharni, Godna, Kachni, and Alpana, out of which Kohbar and Alpana are most popular. Kohbar are the stories painted on the walls of a newly married couple's room. The paintings are found in the southeast corner of the room, the place known as the home of Agni or fire, and also Venus or Shukra, both embodying the spirit of life and longing. Motifs like bamboo, lotus leaf, fish, turtle, and Shiva Parvati are painted in Kobar. It is believed that their energy and abundant growth symbolize the prosperity and well-being of the newly-wed couple, making it an auspicious setting for Vangshavruddhi or procreation. Alpana is a 8-petal lotus, Ashtadal, that is beautifully drawn on the floors at a puja or yajna, held for the purification of earth. This is the Madhubani symbolism. A symmetry for power, fish for fertility, lotus for good luck and femininity, bamboo for masculinity, elephant and palanquin for royalty, sun and moon for longevity, swan and peacock for well-being and peace.
Where is the Madhubani art found? Originally, the Madhubani paintings were done on the walls of the village houses as a way to decorate these houses around festivities, auspicious occasions, and as it is a custom in many tribal folks. Here is a nice example of the Madhubani paintings done on the exterior facade of this house. So, who practiced this Madhubani art? Primarily, the women of the community came together, and it was like a social interaction for them. They came together and they painted the pictures in Madhubani style. Originating on the wall centuries ago, the art slowly gained social value as a reason for women folk to get together and paint. Slowly, it gained popularity and evolved as a skill and a qualification in a marriageable girl.
Yes, Prachi, I might just share with our audience that in these famous or infamous arranged marriages in India, which are it's been a tradition for ages in different parts of India. The entire clan of the boy would many times go to meet the girl, and it's not just a meeting; it's they're actually going to interview the girl to check her out and to check out her family and the house and to know what all skills she has and whether she's good enough to come to the boy's family. So obviously, this Madhubani art made a very good qualification for a girl, and she scored a bunch of brownie points right there.
Now let's look at the unique features of Madhubani art. Artist aims to cover the artwork entirely with practically no empty space. The intricate work of fine lines and bright colors show highly ornamented motifs like fish, flowers, trees, sun, god, and gods and goddesses. The double lines define the motif which are depicted on the artwork. There are beautiful borders or series of multiple borders which are comprised on the art form. Exaggerated facial features in the human or godly figures, fine detailing, and the love for colors and curves. Elements are borrowed from nature, religious figures, gods and goddesses, and daily and special occasion scenes that form our folk life. Here we have a beautiful composition of a woman in a garden. You can see the way the features of the women are depicted here with beautiful big eyes and a certain side profile. And as we see, she has a beautiful costume with really intricate detailing of the designs and the jewelry. You can see the bangles here, nice big earrings. She has flowers in her hair, and she's probably standing in a garden which has nice bright flowers. And you can see the background, it has a beautiful detailing of a tree of a peacock. Not only the most striking feature of a peacock, which are its feathers, that is detailed very beautifully with fine line work, as well as the body of the peacock is also equally detailed. And you can see here, there is a nice unique border with sets of solid colors and patterns. And also the peacock is standing on a branch of a tree. We have the motif of a fish. As you can see, the fish has a double outline, and it has a combination of two different alternate patterns filled with lines and colors. The eyes also are a striking feature here, as we can see, and the entire canvas is filled with floral motifs as well. Here we have a very catchy motif. It appears to be that of a sun, probably because of the bright yellow background it has. Do you agree with me, Anita?
I know why it looks like sun because it's this big round in the right in the center, and the semblance to the rays. But the whole idea of a ray, Prachi, is a straight line, and here it's all the curves and the serpentine lines. And the sun is also in the mythology of India is a male figure, it's masculine gender, and here she's a woman with the bindi, and the suns are curving and the rays are black. So I don't really know what to make of this.
This composition has a tree and also talks about the relationship between earth and water. The tree is delicately designed with intricate patterns all over the branches. The leaves are a certain way with combination of colors and patterns. It has little birds all over it, and the water has four motifs of fish. So it really says that the tree is sort of a support system for so many beings around. This is another motif of the sun. It is a very interesting combination here that we see of the borders that surround the main focal element. And of course, the way the eyes are exaggerated, all the features are exaggerated here. So we have seen many beautiful paintings and compositions so far. Anita, would you like to share your thoughts?
Sure, Prachi. I've been seeing all these different bright, colorful works of art by different artists, and I can certainly see that the artist is taking a lot of freedom and liberty in improvising the motif, the basic sun motif, or a tree, or a fish. So I'm enjoying that the style of improvisation. The technique is Madhubani of the fine lines and the intricacy and the idea of filling the whole surface. But what to detail is it looks like the artist's choice and the liberty. So I'm finding a lot of creativity in them. I'm also finding the Panchamahabhutas, the five elements.
Mhm.
Definitely the earth, the ether, the water, definitely. I haven't seen much of fire except the sun, which is radiance and heat, if
Right.
I may. But so Panchamahabhutas, so the respect has been paid for the five elements. So yeah, so a lot of interesting readings really.
One very striking aspect of this painting can be the way the Buddha is seated on a lotus here, lotus flower, and the base is of the leaf of the lotus. So really, as you said, Anita, the artist truly has exercised his liberty in a way to express his imagination.
Buddha is far from really embellishments and decorations in concept. But here, he's surrounded by decorations. And the only truth from the original Buddha image is the tree and the Buddha himself. So everything around him, under him, is the artistic liberty.
This is another beautiful composition of a Madhubani painting. Maybe not a typical one in the sense that there is an absence of a border, but the elements are certainly very much the language of Madhubani. So probably this looks like a scene or a relation of a wedding happening or maybe to be taking place. The elements that suggest that are the presence of Shiva and Parvati motif here we see, and we can see a bridegroom with his bride. Just the detailing of their costumes or their expressions is very nicely depicted here. We can also see an elephant here, which is found mostly in either the Bharat. There is a combination of lines and patterns forming simple triangles, geometrical shapes. There is the use of curves, spirals. the flower and leaf motif, which is very common one, and also the borders have double lines. Here is a very beautiful piece of Madhubani. Let's
Huh.
look at the architecture of this painting. We can move from macro to micro and analyze it. Looking at the border, there is a nice singular border here with combination of patterns and colors and triangles. The main focal element is that of a bride sitting in her palanquin with four palanquin bearers. As we all must be having an idea of how grand the Indian weddings are and how the bride is sent to her new home in a very ceremonious way. This is a beautiful depiction of that process. So when we look at the bride, she's really nicely shown in her expressions, in the way her costumes are, her jewelry is. So when we look at her features, the eyes are very nicely exaggerated. Her body language is shy, she's looking downwards, and she's wearing a very attractive big nose ring. She has flowers in her hair, and they're also decorated throughout the braid. Really nice set of bangles. Her costume is very rich in motifs itself. Like you can see the flowers, you can see borders, tassels, and also the veil. The veil itself is nicely ornamented here. And maybe this she's wearing a crown on top of her bindi. And if you notice the base on which she is seated, it has a really intricate checkered pattern. The dolly itself is also very ornate. It has nice curtains which are embellished with very beautiful ornamental patterns and tassels. Then you can see the palanquin bearers here. They are also being given equal justice in terms of the detailing, you can say. We can start from noticing their hairstyle. It has a certain length to it, and they are all wearing it in a certain fashion. And then they have really nice interesting headgear, which is a turban. And coming to their costume, they have very nicely patterned short kurtis with a nice sash. They all have nice trimmings of lace and tassels. Then you can see the dhoti. It also has very intricately drawn borders, and the sash which is tied around their waist. They also seem to be wearing anklets. So, and also not to miss the earrings that we can see on them. So this is a very interesting feature. You can say that the male and the female are both equally dressed up for the occasion. Probably they are having the sense of responsibility or uh, pride that they are carrying the bride with with them on their shoulders. And also not to miss the canvas, which is filling up the entire space. You can see two very nicely drawn peacocks here, motifs of peacocks, again, which has nice exaggerated eyes. Even the ground on which they are walking, also the ground on which they are walking, it seems to be really live with a lot of ground cover, flowers, and also the detailing of the layer under beneath it.
What I really like about this Prachi is the spirit of the occasion has been caught in this painting. Of course, the level of detailing and the type of detailing, but the spirit with which the artist has painted this scene, because it's the marriage and the end of marriage, really. It's the bidai, the sending off of the girl to her sasural. The whole spirit is talking to me as I see the painting. And I think that is the success of the painting. So thank you for selecting this lovely piece and breaking it down for us.
I have picked a very special artist, Dulari Devi. Dulari Devi is a sought after Madhubani artist who is known for her mural work. She also teaches Madhubani art at the Mithila Institute. Away from the world of glamour and marketing, she's a very simplistic person, yet a great artist. Madhubani art is all about depicting ceremonies or religious figures or glamorizing the gods and also some borrowings from nature. Dulari Devi has a unique sense of this Madhubani art because she has derived her own way of communication using Madhubani. This is an interesting artwork by Dulari Devi. It is called the Ice Cream Wala. There is a beautiful tree dividing the customers from the seller, and the use of colors. There is a particular palette which is picked. Not all the known typical Madhubani colors are used here. We can see the yellows, the reds, and the black used as a solid color as well. So, Anita, what are your thoughts on this painting?
A lot of artistic freedom. Dulari Devi is obviously very talented. She knows the Madhubani grammar and the components, but she has completely let go of the border, the indispensable borders, as we thought. And I love the spirit of the drawing. She has portrayed the curious kids and the seller and that one of the mothers. Beautiful. Great, Prachi. That was a lovely insight into Madhubani. I always loved the word Madhubani and the meaning of it. And I knew a little bit about the art, but with you, we could have much bigger insight and a nice time visiting the art.
Warli is an indigenous tribe, Adivasi, of central western India, living in the mountain ranges of Sahyadri and also in the coastal areas along the Maharashtra and Gujarat state borders. The Warli art carries a tradition that dates back to 2500 years before Christ. It is one of the oldest known tribal arts, the semblances of which are also found in the Bhimbetka relics in Madhya Pradesh, India. Like Madhubani, Warli is also a Bhitti Chitra, a wall painting, in its origins, done only for special occasions such as weddings, festivals, or harvests. Farming being the way of life, people greatly respect nature and wildlife. But for these, the tribe would not survive. The culture centers around Mother Nature, their paintings often paying tribute to the elements of nature. The paintings use a basic vocabulary of monochromatic circles, triangles, and squares. The circle represents the sun and moon. The triangle denotes a mountain and pointed trees, and the square is a human invention, indicating a sacred enclosure or a piece of land. The central motif is beautifully surrounded by scenes from hunting, fishing, and farming, festivals and dances, trees or animals. People and animals are represented by two triangles joined at the tip. The precarious equilibrium of the hourglass-like motif symbolizes the balance of the universe. Away from the glorification or beautification with fancy paints and materials, the Spartan Warli art comes across as the most spiritual, simple folks simply painting what they see, what they do.
I will just orient the audience to the Warli tribe. As I said, it belongs to the western Maharashtra coastal areas and also a part of Gujarat, where fishing and rice fields or rice farming are the primary vocations or livelihoods. So, a lot of scenes from these two professions or occupations are depicted in the paintings and also the lifestyle relating to it.
So Warli is a beautiful art of white motifs on the surface of terracotta earth tone walls that depict the pursuits from daily life of the tribal folk. Let's look at a few typical examples of a Warli art and the sensibility of Warli art. Here we have a very nice composition, a monochromatic one, as you may notice in the first glance. The Warli art is practiced by the tribe settled in the coastal region of Western India, as Anita mentioned. It was created originally on the facade of the exterior walls of the mud houses as a way to mark special occasions happening in the village. This art is very simplistic, as you may see here, yet it's very expressive. This is another example. The main focal element here, as we see, is a beautiful tree, and the way the tree supports so many beings around. It's very similar. The concept is very similar to what we saw in Madhubani paintings as well. Like the Madhubani, there are certain unique features which are very typical to a Warli art. The use of monochromatic tones, the motifs which represent men, women, children, animals, birds, plants, and houses, and of course the daily lives through actions. Simple diagrams of solid triangles and mostly straight lines. There are no facial features, but they are painted solidly, and the action speaks or communicates to the viewer. Simple pictures depicting geography, local landscapes, occupations, beliefs, and values. So, the Warli tribe worships the Mother Earth, and this is very evident through these paintings. Now, let me talk about certain formations which you may notice in this art form. It is also going to be illustrated as we move forward to the most fascinating part of a Warli painting. It's a very striking element. This coil is actually a very nice group activity or a group formation which the tribal people are engaged in. Like everyone, they really love and enjoy to celebrate special occasions or festives. So, this is actually a form of a folk dance. It is called, or it is named after the wind instrument, which is called tarpa. As you can see here, this really long instrument is a wind based one, and it is made out of wood. So the musician or the person playing the tarpa instrument is situated at the center of this coil, and what you see around it in spiral are the women or a combination of men and women dancing. They form such beautiful patterns, like you can see the spiral, the circles, concentric circles, then there is also a zigzag pattern. So they really like to come together and dance to the tunes of tarpa.
The story of Warli art is incomplete without the mention of Jivya Soma Mashe, the man who took the Warli art to a different level of exploration and exposure. This is the story of Jivya Soma Mashe, a story that has both pathos and joy. Until about 5 decades ago, it was mainly the women folk who painted in Warli style around the time of festivals and harvests. In the 1970s, the ritual art took a turn when people noticed Jivya Soma Mashe's work. He was painting not for any ritual, but just in response to his calling to express himself. Jivya's mother was a laborer. As a child, he accompanied his mother wherever she went for work, also learning the art from her. Sadly, he lost her when he was still a child, the trauma of which rendered him without speech for years. In those years, when Jivya was not speaking, he was painting. He was painting possibly to be with his mother in his memory, or as if in a catharsis. But this made him a skilled and insightful painter. And what more, the art was so therapeutic, he spoke again. Around 1970, Jivya and Balu Mashe, the father-son pair, were painting so prolifically and beautifully, people could not help notice them. People in power recognized Jivya with awards, displaying his art at major art nodes. With this exposure, the Warli art became known to the world and gained the repute it enjoys today. Jivya also explores painting in other forms, keeping the Warli monochrome and concept intact. Here are a few works of Jivya Soma Mashe.
Talking about the artistic freedom, I can see what freedom you took here. This looks like marriage of Madhubani and Warli to me, with the inspiration from the Madhubani borders, and also putting colors in the solid forms of Warli people.
Yes.
And I just love the action of playing the Nagara.
Most of my work is like a combination. So here is another such example. It's like a scene from the fields where some women are dancing to the tunes of these wonderful instruments also played by women and men. And you have a tree on which there is a nice little swing because some girls are swinging, there are some girls chasing the hen. So it's really like a scene from the fields, you can see. And it has two different borders, which are Madhubani borders. This is actually a typical Warli border. Here also is a focal element, which is the bullock cart, and is surrounded by a Warli border.
I can see the man who is driving the bullocks and two women just enjoying the ride. So quite an unfair distribution of labor, as I can see. Like the bullocks and the males are doing all the work and women are just enjoying the ride.
It really connected to me because Warli art seems to be very much about motion. Any piece of Warli art work, it has a lot of movement in it, in the terms of activities, in the terms of the relation between nature and man, and also the landscape in itself.
We go on to the third segment of the show now. This is the mud and mirror art from the regions of Kutch in Gujarat, which are all dry desert regions. And this is the first three-dimensional art that we will be exploring. The first two were visual and only two-dimensional, like flat.
Year 2001 saw a devastating earthquake in Bhuj, in the Kutch region of Gujarat, India. Surprisingly, the circular vernacular mud houses called bhangas did not collapse. While their construction makes a study subject, their mural art of mud and mirrors makes a beautiful example of folk arts in India, traditional to the region. This mural art is also known as Lippen Kam. Lippen meaning applying a paste. Mirrors in costumes and in wall art is a Persian influence that got enhanced during the Mughal period in India. Local clay and camel dung are used in the dough. The art is found both in interior as well as exterior walls. The shimmering wall murals stand out in the barren plains, bringing life, gaiety, and beauty to the generally harsh life of the people of Kutch. The Lippen Kam shows off the graceful forms of peacocks, camels, elephants, elegant water-bearing or buttermilk churning women, temples and trees. Most of the designs are taken from their embroidery designs and include geometric forms. Women carrying pots of water are considered auspicious. The art is practiced mostly by women so proficient they rarely draw or trace a design first. The Lippen Kam is typically found on the kothis and chulas, the storage granaries and hearths, in addition to walls, partitions, doorways, lintels, niches, and occasionally on the floors, where mirrors are inlaid in the impressions of fingers and palms. Portions of dough are shaped into cylinders of varying thickness by rolling between palms or on the floor. This is then pasted on the moist surface of walls or wooden panels. They start with the border, then filling the inside with motifs, all freehand using palms and fingers that pinch and shape the mud. After the clay dries off in about 4 to 5 days, a layer of white clay is painted over the artwork. The white comes from the local sand that is rich in salt content. The finished walls are absolutely stunning with mirrors embedded in the mudwork. The Lippen Kam on the exterior walls is an insulator. It reflects heat, keeping the interiors cool. In the interiors, a single lamp lights up the whole space from the glittering mirrorwork. The art thus has a high utilitarian value. And like other folk arts, it also has a social value. Women sing songs playfully as they work up a mural, while men dig the clay and cart it to the site, the endeavor boosting the community spirit. Different communities like Meghwal, Rabari, Marwada Harijan, and Bani are the Kutchi communities who do great Lippen Kam, each with their own distinctive style.
This is a piece done on the interiors, on the borders of a window. This is how it looks in essence, how the color, how the mud and the mirror are brought together to create beautiful ornamental patterns. The cluster houses in which these communities live is called the bhangas. Here is another example of how mud and mirror is made on the interiors of the walls. This image expresses a very beautiful relationship between costumes and the interior work. Here is a woman of the Kutchi community, the Rabari community of Kutch. As you can see, her costume is very much ornate and detailed with mirrors and thread work and thread embroidery work, which represents this art, or you can say it is like an inspiration for this mud and mirror art form. Also, you see the nice relation between the functional and the ornamental use of mirror here, because as you see, this single big large piece of mirror is used as a mirror, and then you have smaller pieces in different shapes like circle, triangle, diamond shape, etc., which is used as decorate as a material for decoration in the mud and mirror art. This is another very attractive composition of the mud and mirror work. As you can see, there are also certain corners which are actually formed with the use of the mud and the mirror. Like you see here, this little nook, then space for storage. This looks like a area of a kitchen, probably. Then of course the openings, the windows, also the doors have it. Wow, isn't this beautiful? So here we have a large mural relief work of mud and mirror. You can see the motifs, the floral motifs here, the use of curves. They're very intricately made with just mud. And then the mirrors are applied to decorate it. They have really ornate borders, geometrical forms, floral motifs, and of course, the most attractive of all is the use of mirrors. It just instantly makes it attractive. definitely one takeaway as a landscape architect, I would say, that I have experienced or known through these art forms is that se- I have become more sensitive towards the ecosystem or the environment. Like for example, Warli art teaches how giving back to what nature gives you is a very noble or a very humbling experience. I remember you telling me once that you had also designed a school which has beautiful Warli done on on it. So can you please share about that experience?
I'm so glad you remembered that because that project had slipped my mind. But yeah, I designed actually a school for the children of Warli tribes in Dahanu, which is a town about 2 hours north of Mumbai, and primarily populated by the Warli tribe folks. About 600 or 700 children from that tribe, and we designed this school for them. It was funded by a Canadian grant.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that school, I had left a one three-storied blank wall with no fenestrations, no windows or doors, just with the Warli mural in mind. And when the work was approaching completion, we hired a local Warli artist woman. We deputed her on the job, and she walked in, and her coat was obviously accepted by the team because it was so low. She was probably not aware of what she's offering to the surroundings. And when she came, there were these open bamboo scaffolds on which she literally climbed the scaffolds and started painting.
Wow.
And it was just an amazing experience to watch her. And she created the whole wall of Warli, three-storied high. It took her about a month, a little over actually. And that painting is still there. I have photographs of it. So thank you for bringing back a lovely memory. Friends, it's been a wonderful journey with Prachi, and I really want to thank her and wish her all the best because she's doing this great work with the local children and the local community centers. Uh, she teaches Warli and Madhubani to folks around her, and we wish her all the best. And thank you for taking time to come here, Prachi, and be with us.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed sharing my thoughts on these arts. Thank you.
Lovely.